is a nation without representation? What is a nation without representation? I'm the 5%, not a 10% of Mason.
All praise is due to Allah, and that's a blessing. 360 degrees of Allah. All praise is due to Allah, and that's a blessing. 360 degrees of Allah. More righteous, more righteous, all praise is due to Allah, and that's a blessing. 360 degrees. More righteous, more righteous, all praise is due to Allah, and that's a blessing. 360 degrees. More righteous, more righteous, more righteous, all praise is due to Allah, and that's a blessing. 360 degrees. More righteous, more righteous, more righteous, all praise is due to Allah, and that's a blessing. 360 degrees.
Peace and blessing to Allah, mighty 5% nation of God's nurse, to all the human families of the planet Earth. We bid you a love, peace, and happiness, and a high salute. I am DJ KY Allah. Welcome to Real 360. Well, we have a definite, dynamic show for y'all tonight, and I'm sure you don't want to miss it. So tell a friend to bring a friend, and they'll bring more friends, and they'll bring more friends, because tonight's info, I think a lot of us can endure and adhere to. But without further ado, we're going to bring on our co-host with the most, my brother in God, Mr. Joshua Allah. Let's roll, Mr. PhD.
Am I the meanest? Sure enough. Am I the baddest mofo low down around this time? Sure enough. Well, who am I?
Joshua Allah.
Who am I?
Joshua Allah.
I can't hear you.
Joshua Allah. Mr. PhD.
Peace to all our followers, likers, and subscribers. Thank y'all for tuning in to the double header today,
Absolutely.
where we definitely is going to deal with a lot of things, you know what I'm saying, and community-wise, and also, too, we're dealing with a lady from back home, you know what I'm saying, our neighborhood, you know.
Yeah.
So let's bring Dr. Nay in here, man. Let's get this thing started. Dr. Nay.
Good evening.
Hey guys, how y'all doing?
Doing great. How you doing tonight?
Excellent, excellent. So you from South Side too?
We from Nassau. Oh, he from Nassau. He Nassau and Brooklyn. You know what I'm saying? And
Okay.
same way with me. You know. But Dr. Nate, if you don't mind, could you tell all our followers, likers, and subscribers who you are and what you do?
Okay. My official legal name is Dr. Renee White, but I go by Dr. Nay. And I have been an educator for 40 years. And I train teachers to be literacy specialists, but I also train teachers how to teach our children and for them to get an understanding and sensitivity for all children. But now I have pivoted. I am a best-selling author. I have a book for women's empowerment and also two for children of color that I use in schools for them to, um, improve their self-esteem and culture and activism. But most recently, I am the first um, spoken fusion artist for Moon Records.
Now, we're going to get into Moontown in 1 second. But I
Mm-hmm.
want to talk to you about the youth of today.
Yes.
And the statehood that we are seeing with the youth of today, education-wise. What are some of the things as parents that we can do, you know what I'm saying, to help our children be successful and also help the teachers in the school system to ensure the children's educational success?
Mainly, we need to be advocates for our children. We need to um, introduce ourselves to the teacher and explain to them that we want to be partners, right? We want to know what is going on, and we need to ask our children, what are they learning? And also, we need to ask the teachers, well, how can I help my child? Because unfortunately, Being in education for 40 years, I cannot say that all teachers have the best interest of all of their students or may not know how to help the children the best they can. So it's so important for parents and teachers to be partners so that the education can continue at home. Also, one thing that I've learned is so important is that organization is key. Where, unfortunately, I see children out at night, um, homework not done properly, on their phones, on the TV. So I really think we need to go back and provide a little more structure so children will focus, so children will stay on task, so still children will understand the importance and the respect for school, just like the school needs to respect the parent and the homes because schools don't exist in vacuums. And I can go on and on and on, but
Good, good.
it's so important for parents to learn some of the strategies because actually the parents are the first educators of their children. So I always say that they're the first line, So we really need to learn, or what are some things that we can do to help our children at home um, the best we can.
And that's something that I was definitely looking to talk about was the the problem of stability and
Mhm.
having a balance, and also too teaching them discipline and patience, and being in urban situations or urban schools or whatever the case may be. I know when we were younger, we was always taught that we had to work twice as hard to
Mhm.
be successful, um, and make education a priority. With the climate of the world today, and a lot of budgets being cut and extracurricular activity and in the school system, what can the parents do at home to, what I'm saying, push that? You know what I mean? Like, what is there, some like some books, or even when you talk about sit down doing the homework with them? Because I know some of the homework we didn't get in school. You know what I mean? Some of the some of the stuff we didn't get in school. So that's one of the things I want to address. Like, how can we keep that and get the stability of the children in the school and get them more attention?
One thing that I've noticed, and it's not just with our children; it's across the board. About that instant gratification. So many children, don't want to take the time. They want to use the AI. They want to get information off the internet, etc. But we need to teach our children to be thinkers, to be critical thinkers, to reflect, right? And I think that, even reading to with your child, not just to your child, but with your child, makes a world of difference because you are modeling what is fluency, you're modeling, expression, comprehension. So we really need to also ask children questions for them to better their comprehension, for them to think about what they're reading, right? Put it in their own words. Um, and or even create stories or different endings, but also it's so important for children to be interested in what they're reading. And unfortunately what I have found is that many schools don't have books with characters that look like our children. I had that issue with my children years ago, and it's still an issue. And that is why, I teach this course, a literacy course, where I teach teachers you need to go out and find additional resources that reflect the children in your classroom, respectfully, and not just pick a book because you see a brown face in it. You really need to read the book, preview the book to see is it really portraying the characters in a respectful way? And how do you incorporate that in the dialogue of the classroom? So, parents, we need to go out, find the books, use the books in a way where children can utilize their critical thinking because children aren't thinking. The answers are so easily given to them these days. So we really need to get our children to think and for them to reflect even on what they're doing, their behaviors. And that's one reason why I use my books in the schools, because it's all about children connecting, for children to really get use out of it and to learn lessons and to internalize those lessons for lifetime.
definitely.
Can I ask a question? Because while we hot on that,
Yes,
I want to
yes.
ask this. Do you think, what do you feel is the disconnect between some of our parents and children these days, that it seems like the younger generation now does not get any of that which we had the way it was, to even have a liking or interest in wanting to conquer financial literacy, cultural literacy, uh, and all those aspects. What do you think is what has been the discord between us?
I don't want to, point any fingers or blame, but I think that the parents now are busy doing their thing. Um, they they're on the internet, they're all on all the different social media and not having sitting and having that quality time. I have to say, that I do see the difference of parents who are really engaged and involved with their children compared to those who are not. So I think that we have gotten away from that structure, that routine that we were talking about before, as to really taking the time and sitting with our children and, like you said, teaching them financial literacy and teaching them how to pick up a book and how to manage their time. There's time for this, video games. There's time for school and everything. You have to manage your time, and I don't think that is really practiced the way it was back in our days.
Now, I say this here that growing up, the comprehension, we used to do book reports. And the book reports that we did, what I'm saying, we had to give the understanding comprehension of what we thought or what we felt like we read. And if there might be 15 to 20 pages that you had to take down and
Mhm.
hand in. Um, and now, like, even with, you say, math homework and all this other stuff, uh, they're utilizing calculators, they're utilizing chat CPT, different things.
CPT. Mhm.
Yeah, CPT. Um, and with that, it's taken away from their comprehension skills, where they understand what they're reading.
Mhm.
Um, do you feel like that? What is the pros and cons? I just say, what is the pros and cons of having technology today for our children?
Technology, and my son will come because my son is a techie. He's a cybersecurity. So I will say that technology is a good thing. It really is. It's resource, but it has to be used in the right way. Okay, it's the idea of, okay, let the children um, do the legwork first, and then they can say look at the technology, or how can they use technology to enhance what they're doing, but not to go directly for the answers. And I see that with my college students. College students don't look like us. Okay, they will use it on the midterms. They will try to use it on their finals, to where the point of I had to give a paper exam, old school fashion. I want to know what you think, not what the internet knows. So it goes, like I said, it runs the gamut. It goes across the board as to the abuse of technology, but we really need to teach children how to utilize it in a useful way.
Definitely. And just like the comment that came up when we was growing up, the teacher used to ask, "What did you want to be when you grow up?" And
Mhm.
some people will say, I want to be a fireman, I want to be a police officer, I want to be a teacher, I want to be a doctor, I want to be a football player. These whatever the situation was, and educationally, you was pushed in that direction to
Mhm.
become that. Um,
Mhm.
these kids, like she was saying, she had watched the video where a teacher asked the student, what he wanted to be, and he said a killer. Like, what is going on in our community where our children don't see themselves as becoming success?
Mhm. Like they're unfortunately they're not being exposed to positive role models or other ways of life. They may be just seeing what's happening right on that block. They may not have even traveled off that block, in the neighborhood. And it's so interesting because I work with fifth graders. This is my fifth year going into my old elementary school. And I asked them, what do you want to be? And it's so interesting because so many haven't even thought about their future. It didn't even dawn on them. Like you said, back in the day, it was like, what do you want to be? Do you want to be, a teacher or whatever the case? And then after we discuss, well, what do you want to become? And what is so great when I go to the school is that they know that I went to that same school from kindergarten to 12th grade. And I also taught at that school like 30 something years ago. So they see that, okay, well, she's a product, of the school. And we discussed, okay, if you want to be an astronaut, if you want to be a brain scientist or whatever the case, then what are the steps? What do you need to do? So I have them go through the process because many times they don't even think long term and what are the steps to getting to that point. And then the bottom line is, well, now that you're in fifth grade, what do you need to start doing? You need
Right.
to really start thinking about how you're going to get into this training program or the grades to get into the college that you want to get in or whatever the case. So we really need to have these conversations with our children, and also teachers need to expose the children to people who look like the children, who have been successful and who are doing wonderful, wonderful things. The school that I'm at, there's a career fair for all of the children from pre-K all the way up to eighth grade. People come in and share about their careers, and it's so interesting because the children will ask, what did you have to do to become whatever the profession might have been. So there are so many different things that schools, I think, also need to incorporate into their curriculum and their program so that children can see beyond what they're seeing on an everyday basis.
We have a comment that states sometimes it can also be negative influences within their own home life. Would you care to
Mhm.
comment on that?
That is so true. And unfortunately, we have to sometimes combat what they're learning at home in both directions. Different parents, different homes have different belief systems.
Mhm.
And we can't go in as the expert saying, well, you need to so and so and you need to blah blah blah, right? Or even if they are on the other side of the aisle, um, they have ways of thinking about the children as well. So it's all about how do we work with the parent if we can. How can we meet the parent where they are? I always tell my teachers that we need to welcome the parents because many times they think they're not welcome. We need to invite them as to how we can work together to help the child academically, socially, etc. As a school, the school may have to provide particular services for the child at home or services for the child at school to accommodate, what is missing. So it's unfortunate that so many children are experiencing um, what they are based upon the current situation, but we can't just automatically go in and snatch the children out or tell them they're doing something wrong, but we can try to demonstrate. Even like when I had a program when I was doing my getting my doctorate, and there was a this was at one of the schools down there, and what I did was I took a group. There was funding to take a group of parents to Richmond to a conference, and it was about parents parenting, like a parent group, because instead of me going in as the assistant principal and saying, well, this is what you need to do, you recruit a group of parents who are really interested, and then for them to come to the parents, so those parents are more open to listen to the parents who are living within their community. Same thing like with Head Start. I worked for Head Start. So it's the idea of, finding your core parents, getting them on board, teaching them whatever strategies that might be useful, and then having, meetings and making sure that the children can have a place to stay, because many times parents may not come in to the school because they have, children or the time of day. So we have to make it more accessible so they feel welcome and they can come in to um, to benefit from such programs. So there are a slew of things, and it's just the idea of being creative, of being supportive, to advocate for it, and getting the support that we need in schools. And there are some great principals out there who are doing great things, but also there are some principals that may need some training themselves. So that's all about professional development and all of that. That's
Well,
another topic, I guess.
well, been having like professional courage and having professional courage, right? And being having a professional courage. At what point do you see a child um, having negative behavior or a negative response because of home life that you put on that mandated report on
Well, that is where that goes through a whole process in the schools where everything has to be documented. You can't just put a child in a particular program. You have to have team meetings. They have different levels of intervention as to seeing, all right, how intense the services might be needed to help that particular child. So it's really the idea of being engaged and involved as the teacher, but also, looking at research. Unfortunately, our boys are misproportioned, um, expelled, suspended, etc. And that is where we really need to also, keep an eye on that. And again, for the parent to go in and advocate, because the parent is invited in on these CPSC or whatever you call it, wherever the school district you're in, to discuss what are the next steps to help the child. But then there are some parents who are in denial and say no to particular services. But then again, it's the idea of trying to get some type of service.
Let me ask this because I think this is jumping in on that as well.
Uh-huh.
Reverse cycle syndrome, where when we grew up at a time, we feared our parents because of we know the discipline they was going to give us. But in some cases, now you have the children who put fear in their own parents. The parents don't know what to do with their kids, and they're even afraid to reach out for the help that they may need psychologically reset and counseling. Is there anywhere, anything about that that you know of that can help parents similar to that, or what can a parent do, or is there an outreach for parents like that?
Well, of course, it varies from place to place. But one thing, the first thing that came to mind when you said that is that When children are little, we need to teach them proper behavior and how to act towards the parent and to respect the parent. Just like if the stove is hot, we'll say, don't touch the stove or don't run out in the street. We have to teach them um, how to behave when we go out into public. It's like my son said, you give that teacher a look and that's it. I didn't have to, swat or whatever the case, because they knew that there's a certain way to act when you're out. There are certain expectations as to how you act in school and what's expected. And that starts very, very early. So we can't wait until they're bigger than we are to try to discipline our child. But also, what came to mind was the stigma of mental health in our community, where we really need to embrace that, because with living in those neighborhoods, especially you said the child who wanted to be a killer, that child has probably experienced some type of trauma that has impacted his or her psyche. So we really need to think about how can we address the trauma and the drama that's going on in these homes to help guide these children, because I always say many times behaviors are results of certain emotions or certain issues going on inside. So that can even be something else, another avenue to consider, having that child, talk to the social worker or whatever the case in the school, or just, going to wherever, you can to, but we really need to end the stigma about mental health. Therapists are our friends.
Yes, they definitely are. Now, growing up in the time period that we did, 70s, 80s, 90s, there was a lot of cultural things that were, or organizations that was in the community. There was a lot of
Mhm,
black pride and things of that nature, that was taught, whether it was in the school, it was taught in the neighborhood, it was taught at
mhm.
the community centers, it was
Churches.
churches, you know what I'm saying, the mosques, the masjids, everywhere, to have pride, you know what I'm saying, in
Mhm,
yourself and in
mhm,
your people. So
mhm,
you rarely see that nowadays in community. You still see it somewhat
mhm,
in institutions, like religious institutions, depending on.
mhm,
But do you feel like when we had that, we had more of a community uh, love and wrap around when it came around for our children?
mhm, mhm. Back then, we had a village.
Hmm.
If Miss Byron down the street,
Mm-hmm.
this is the true story,
Mm-hmm.
saw my brother driving my sister's car without permission, not without a license, Miss Byron called my mother, and then he got a whooping, and then he got a whooping. These days it's like you can't. Nobody wants you to talk about their child.
Right.
But we had a village where we used to watch out for each other. We used to on the block. We used to go to each other's houses. And when those lights were about to go down, everybody knew it was time to go back into that house.
Absolutely.
Right? It was time. It was time for dinner. So we don't have that village that we used to have. We don't have that connection with each other like we used to have, and I really think it made a difference. Even now I'm still in I have connections with the people I grew up with on the block. Back in Queens. Because that family was built.
I look at the relationships that was built in those neighborhoods with families, like you said. Some people, what I'm saying, was fortunate enough to be able to go to other people's houses for dinner. You know what I mean? Because everybody wasn't financially able to provide, but they was able to make things happen. Um,
Mhm.
is some things that we look at in our community that we know what I'm saying, Miss Mary down the block. Miss Mary wouldn't be disrespected. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
I remember be out on the block, cats be drinking or smoking, and Miss Mary, while somebody like that would come down, you trying to hide the cigarette, or you trying to hide your beer, or you trying to
Mhm.
help her get her groceries and stuff inside the building or inside the house. And it wasn't to help her to get it in there so you could rob her. It was help her because she was
Mhm.
an elder in the community. Um,
Mhm.
would is there any way that we can try to reverse the polarity of the things that we are seeing today? You know what I'm saying, going forward with our children, because it seems like it's so lost
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah, that's a I'd say a tough question, but I guess it goes back to churches trying to bring children back, even looking at PAL or those programs where they have at the clubs, the after school programs, pulling children and families together. Um, there even I saw something the other day that I forget who it was funding a financial literacy program for schools, even bringing parents into schools, because many times the parents may not have had the family literacy. The parents themselves may have problems reading. They may be illiterate. So we really, like I said, we have to meet the parents where they are, and not look at them, side eyed or anything like that. This idea that we are here, in the name of the welfare of the child, and that really makes a difference. And what came to my mind as well is my mother. She passed some years ago, and my father was in the nursing home, and we were waiting for I guess my brother to pull up for us to get into the car. And there were these boys walking by, and they had their pants like halfway hanging off. And she was 80 something, and she said, pull up your pants or something like that. And I was like, and thank God they said, yes, ma'am, you know. But it could have been a whole different scenario if a different group of children or teenagers had walked by, So she, was still thinking in the culture where you can tell somebody's child, pull up your pants. But now, you see on the news where teenagers are beating up 80 and 90-year-old. It doesn't make any sense. Like, what happened to the respect for elders?
that's
You know,
that's something
oh,
that I think about a lot of times when you talk about parents being illiterate. I can say my father had a sixth grade education, but he made
Hmm.
sure that his children didn't have a sixth grade education. He did not
Hmm.
allow us to come in the house with anything less than an 89, because he felt like if anything I allow you to
Hmm.
get under there, then you're going to take it and try to push the level. So 89
Hmm.
on whatever grade that we were getting was the
Hmm.
limit. Anything outside of that, in his mind, you failed. You know what I mean? You failed.
Hmm.
So we had to learn discipline. We had to learn uh, how to be educationally stable and always
Hmm.
represent our parents when we left the house, because that's what it was. When you went outside the house, you represent your family.
Exactly.
You know what
Like they say, oh, that's so and so from the white
I mean?
family,
Yeah,
you know. And we all, every evening, we all sat around the kitchen table and we did our homework at the same time. You had to do your homework while my mom cooked. You go out and play. You come home, it's bed. You eat. It's bedtime. So that's going back to um, that structure and that builds in that respect as well.
one of the things you talked about, well, both of y'all touched on, I want to go there. We talked about certain things that we had in our communities that we could go to where we were connected. The churches, and I'm using this, churches back then are not the churches of today.
Mhm.
It's such a discourse and this and a sad thing about some of the ways these churches are now, that where church was supposed to be separate from the world, but now you got the churches in the world almost in the same fashion. The clothing has changed, the mindset of how to bring children back to a fold of love and consider the whole dynamics of certain things. And let's be real, church has become a commercialization. It has become an institution for money, certain churches. And if this hits anybody's homes, I'm sorry, but it is what it is. I'm just saying that you don't have the ministers who are talking about bringing souls, are asking for souls to come with change or their pocketbooks instead of coming with a mind, heart, and set to bring your whole family with you. It's now just come as you are by yourself, or if your child can come, the child. Most children tell the parents, "I ain't going to church." When it was, "Get up, we're going to church." So the dynamics again has changed in that whole manner. So that's just what I wanted to compliment on, right here. Excuse me.
You know, with
Mm-hmm.
the educational part, that'll eat up this whole interview. But I want to also, it will, you know what I mean? When we're talking about community and and education and the baby and stuff like that, that's a whole segment all to itself. But I also wanted to touch on, when did you start um, getting into spoken word?
Um, Actually, it started during COVID, the beginning of when it first hit, pretty much. Um, just like I was telling someone the other day, I've always been a writer, but teaching college, it was always journal articles, book chapters, research, that type of thing. But then when I was home, the poetry just started to come. So I didn't, think about, well, what am I going to write about today? It just came from the title and flowed to the very end. So that was just so interesting to me. And then after a while, I was like, wow, I have enough for a book, because I was given these words for a reason, to make a difference. So I published the books, um, to really put the word out there and to have people think about their lives, to empower people, to embrace people. Um, yeah. So it started like 5, 6 years ago.
That's interesting because growing up, I took journalism in high school and stuff like that from high school right on, and I write poetry. You know what I'm saying, at times. You know what I mean? I find it therapeutic because of the things that I'm writing about. I'm able to release that energy because
Mhm.
in growing up in a dysfunctional household, you need some form of release. So write short
Mhm.
stories and poetry and things like that was my
Mhm.
avenue out. You know what I'm saying? Of what was going on. How do you think about it being that therapeutic, or it being therapeutic for other people?
Actually, my books are written in a therapeutic fashion. Instead of it being a compilation of poems, for the women's book, Embrace Your Power, a transformative journey of self discovery, it's all about people reading the poem, and then I have thinking prompts for them to think, well, how does this relate to you? So it's all about growing, reflecting, changing, transforming, etc. Even with my books for children, it's going back to, and I won't get into the theory and all the literacy theorists and whatnot, but I have incorporated, my literacy background, being a mom of two Black sons, and now being a poet. I've combined them all. So I have the poems, and then I have the questions as to how do you connect with it. And then after, at the end of each chapter, I have what you call graphic organizers to help children um, process what they've understood based upon the topic of the chapter. So the books were actually used for parents, like we were saying before, like what can parents do? I have published these two books for parents who use at home, to supplement what's done at school, because like I said, many of times the materials that are used in schools do not reflect our children or reflect the culture of our children. I have some poems about What is your culture? Respecting your culture, how we're all different, how do you go about, learning more about your culture? So that's at the ending of that particular chapter, a graphic organizer of how to create, a family tree. Looking at the issues in the community. When we're looking at chapter 3, we want children to be social activists. And when we think about social activists, it doesn't have to mean that, you're out on the street with signs and etc. Children can be activists at different levels at different ages. So it's really about how do we um, teach children that they don't have to be the victims of their community, but they can be the change of their community. And how can they be leaders, because that's another thing, where are we teaching our children to be leaders? So we talk about that as well. So going back to reading the poetry, it's also a transformative process for my readers.
Do you have one of your books or your books by hand so you can show the audience the books that you
Oh,
have?
sure, of
You know,
course, of course.
um,
Okay, this here is it backwards?
yeah, it comes up backwards, but they see the book.
Okay, all right, okay. This is Embrace Your Power, a transformative journey of self-discovery. The first edition was Embrace Your Power, a sister-to-sister conversation that I had published using a publishing company, but I disconnected from that and I published it myself under my incorporation. So buy this one, not the sister-to-sister. And then I have two books for children. I have actually, I'm doing the same thing. This one here was published with the company, but it's a little different. It's going to be Grow, Strive Towards Your Excellence. I'm publishing that under Renee's Way Incorporated. And then I have Dear Sister Girl, Step Into Your Greatness. And I'm in the process of republishing that. It should be ready in a week or so on Amazon, on Barnes and Nobles, or my website, um, drnarenee.com. But then also, I forgot, I asked you the question regarding poetry, not spoken fusion.
Now, Dr. Nate, what was the process of publishing your book and getting it distributed? Because what was the process of publishing your book and getting it
Mhm.
distributed? Because you have a lot of, young black men and women who are authors and struggle with getting their books published and distributed.
Well, one reason why I publish using hybrid publishing was because but you have to to pay for that up front, and they have a team and they guide you through it. When I going through the process of republishing under my name, actually I met someone who worked for a publishing company, and she's helping me, find an editor, find a graphic designer, because it's step by step. It takes a lot of patience and a lot of energy to do that, and I'm doing that along with promoting my spoken fusion. So I hired someone to take me through those particular steps. But what I found was that the traditional way of publishing was a bit disheartening for me. My son actually, he has a book that he's sending it to literary agents and whatnot, and that's really really a process, because you have to find your literary agent and they have to accept you, and and you have to go. Yeah, so that's another process that he's going through. So that's why I decided to go with hybrid publishing. But I'm not too sure as to how you would find a graphic designer, how you would find an editor. Um, you got to go on Ingram and get an account for distribution for Amazon and for all the book retailers. So like I said, I had someone to guide me through that.
because reason why I asked, like I said, there's a
Mhm.
lot of beautiful young men and women who
Oh,
are
yes.
authors, and they have poured the time and energy into writing a manuscript or writing a book or what have you, and they run into a brick wall when it comes down to publishing and distribution.
Mhm.
And being that you have, you know, books that's published and everything else, people will look to you for that type of guidance and, and help.
Mhm.
But with your poetry fusion, let's get into let's get into this.
Okay.
How did you get to naming it poetry fusion? What was like? How did you? What was the concept of that?
The spoken
Yeah,
fusion.
spoken fusion.
Yes.
Spoken fusion.
Actually, I guess I'll back up a little bit. So I was talking to a friend of mine, and she was saying, "Oh, your poetry sounds like music." And I said, "I would love for my music to become part of a song, or out there on radio stations, etc." But I didn't know anything. I didn't know anything about the music industry. Like, how would that work? Would artists have to buy the poem? How? Who? What? So okay, so I still spoke it, and I went to a gala, and Herb Middleton was being honored, and they were listing all of his accolades, and I was like, oh, he's a multi-platinum, multi-Grammy nominated music producer, and I'm in the room with him. Like, what are the chances of this? I tell you, the whole process from the words channeling through me has been such a divine process, because everything has been like, I haven't had to look. Things have just been kind of unfolding and happening, and pieces coming together. So I heard this, and I'm like, I'm in a room with him. I can't pass up this opportunity. I'm like, this was set up for a reason, right? So so after he sat down, my table was next to his, and I said, I have to talk to him. I cannot leave this place without at least talking to him. So I plopped myself down next to him and told him who I was, what I was doing, how I write books for women empowerment and for youth activism. And he shared with me that Moontown Records and Publishing is a humanitarian company. And he was like so interested. So we exchanged information. I emailed him to follow up the next day. And like that Monday, Tuesday, we were talking. I shared with him my poetry, and that's all she wrote. So when we were in the studio, I was said, Herb, I said, we're doing something different, because I have, my poetry, and then you're producing the music. And when you listen to it, you don't know if the music came first, or you don't know if the words came first, because it's fused, right? So I said, what should we call it? So we said, well, it's kind of like spoken word, but it's a little different than spoken word. And then he's, well, yeah, people will be confused, spoken fusion. And we said, that's it. And that's how the term came about.
Now, I'm glad you touched on it because I was curious how you got connected with Moonshine, because we've been working with Ron for a couple of years now. You know what I'm
Yes.
saying? With different artists and everything else. And he was animate about you, about spoken. He was animate about it. And that's when we got on the phone and we talked and everything else. So I was that was always what made me curious. How did that relationship start with you and
Mm-hmm.
Moon?
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And you touched it without me even asking.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
You know, I really want to salute you because of the work that you child advocate, you know what I mean,
Mm-hmm.
is a beautiful thing, especially in the community. A lot of times we don't get child advocacy unless the child is incarcerated. But to
Mm-hmm.
get them before they're in, you know what I'm saying, Spofford or, you know what I mean, different places, you know, these juvenile facilities and become a product of the system is something
Mm-hmm.
that we as a community should be looking to. I know that they cut the budget for a lot of programs in the neighborhood or in the community, but if there's a will, there's a way. And with us as a
Mm-hmm.
people, we always make a way. So,
Right.
um, with you investing in the children in the community, you know, do you ever feel tired or any pushback? Do you feel tired? Any pushback a lot of times because child advocacy works on your mental health, not just your
Mm-hmm.
physical health. It just works on you because of the things that you see.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
How do
Mm-hmm.
you reset and recharge your energy, your battery, so you can keep going on?
How do I recharge? My sons will tell you automatically. Dr. Nay is flying somewhere to lay on the beach. That's how the Caribbean sun. That's how Dr. Nay recharges, and rethink and conjure up the energy to keep going. And when you talk about pushback, the most pushback that I get teaching in my classrooms, the teachers, they're actually teachers getting their masters, and they're like, "Oh, well, I don't know how the parents, are going to respond to this, and da 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 da, and I'm not tenured, and I'm like, well, first of all, you have to think about where can you start small. You have to start somewhere, you know. And I give them, these activities that some of them might find offensive, but no, it's to get you to think out the box, to think out of your neighborhood that you have been in all your life, and now you're coming to the school and you know how to teach all the children. So yeah, so with the pushback, um, it's more in the classroom, the college classroom, and just trying to get teachers to understand, and for them to gain the knowledge that they need and they can utilize, and give them the courage and the confidence to try to change their practices.
Is there a particular curriculum that they need to refurbish themselves on or refresh themselves on every year or 2 years, or how do you have that go about with teachers?
Oh, good. Okay, let me sit up for this one. Okay, sad to say that many, or I won't say most, but that's probably the case, of teacher education programs do not have required courses for cultural responsive pedagogy. Okay. They may have bits and pieces depending on who the professor is and how they may address it in that particular course. And I found that out because I used to travel around with the New York State Department of Education for accreditation of educational programs. And I always took the standard 3 because it was diversity. So, with me going into several schools across New York State, I always had to write recommendations because it wasn't up to par. Um, so, so actually, what I teach is a course that I created, and thank God it's a required course for the master's, for the graduate literacy program.
Okay.
But now I'm not there, and someone else is teaching the course. So I'm not, even though, professors are given a syllabus, how they really go about to implement it can vary based upon their belief system, based upon what they know and their skill set. So, that's one thing that really broke my heart was not teaching my class last year. I've been on a leave, focusing on my spoken fusion. Um, yeah. So no, it's not. I don't think that it's covered or covered at all, or as much as it should be.
Now,
Okay.
now, Dr. Nay, um, they're not supposedly they're not allowed to teach certain parts of history. They're not allowed to teach certain parts of history in school anymore. And the history that they're not supposed to teach reflects us more so than anything else. Um,
Hmm.
what can we do? Community, parents, whatever, to re-educate our children in our history, not just slavery, but just our history.
Right. And unfortunately, in some states, it's illegal for teachers to do that. So we can't force them, So it's the idea of parents focusing on it at home. So it's the idea of them seeking out resources. Um, I maybe somehow, because I have it in my folder of a list of various websites of various because there are various organizations that like the Loretta Scott King Award. It's a book that has a list of African American books. Um, the National Association of Multicultural Education, they have a list of books that they certified. Um, so parents have to unfortunately seek out books because also so many books are now censored, just like I'm sure my book will be censored in some places. But I've tried to make it so that the parents can use it easily at home because it has the questions, it has the activities. I'm in the process of creating an instructional guide that give parents and teachers more ideas of books that they can use as supplemental material and what other strategies they can use to help their children at home. So, unfortunately, the parents have to become the teachers regarding that in some states, but thank God it's not everywhere.
Do you have a course or course online that maybe if somebody's interested on here while they're listening, that they can chime in and get some information for that?
Now, all that information would be on the college's system, Canvas. So I can't log in and do all that right now, unfortunately. Well, I guess you're just gonna have to have me
That's it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yes.
back. And I'll share with them what are some examples of what are some things they can do at home with their children, some literacy strategies, what they look like, graphic organizers to help children synthesize the information. Um, yeah, and a list of books for multicultural literature.
Shout out to Queen Thickum. Thank you for chiming in.
Yes. Yes.
But Dr. Nay, we're coming to the end, and we're definitely going to have you to come back um,
Hmm.
because there's so much information that I feel that we left on the table that's so informative to us as a people and to us as a community. And I want to
Mhm.
thank you so much,
Mhm.
for coming on. And tell the people how they
Yes.
can get your book. Tell them how to get your book. Tell them how to get your spoken fusion. Tell them how they can follow you on social media. You know what I mean? Just let them know how
Yes.
they can reach out.
Okay. Because this is the eve to the drop of Spoken Fusion. Tomorrow is 11/13. The album is Embrace Your Power 11/13. That's another whole story of what 11/13 means. But Herb Middleton and I will be having a listening party on another site is on Facebook. My Facebook, oh my God, my Facebook is Dr. Nay Renee White. Also on IG, it is at Dr. Nay Blog, DRNAYBLOG. On my website, Dr. Nay Renee, DRNAYRENEE.com. And it will have information up there as well. So I'm excited because 1113, it drops. It's all about women's empowerment, even for men. Let him be a man is one of the very conversational type of song. Hell no against domestic violence. So there are various topics that we can discuss in in our communities on this album. So it's all I'm doing it all for to help people out there and help them get through the times that they're having and to have them think and maybe come up with other options for their futures.
Thank you so much for that, Dr. Nate. And I want to thank
Thank
everybody who has
you.
been tuning in on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, TikTok, and Instagram. Um, and I want to thank GC Radio for all your support, man, taking us to allowing us to use your platform to take it to 132 countries. Um, being this will be part of WPUSO 82.3 out in Columbus, Ohio morning show because we're part of the morning show. See, okay, I'm getting it. I'm getting it. You know what I'm saying? It's
Yeah.
starting to flow. At Third Coast Society TV, 3C TV with Lisa Good and Derek Morris. This will be one of their episodes on their television app. And I implore you, all our fans, all our listeners, take your time out, follow Dr. Name, see what she has going on with the community, see what she has going on with, you know, what I'm saying, her women empowerment, spoken fusion, and tap into Moon Knight album, you know, it's Moontown Records, and check out my man Ron Shuford. You know what I'm saying? He got a bunch of great. Look at him. You see him? Yes, yes, and make sure that you tap in and you make sure that you tap in. So, big bro, you know what time it is, man.
Yeah, man. I'm digging the commercial. Well, I like that. Y'all gotta come on in. I'm waiting for the drop tomorrow too. All right. Ladies and gentlemen, you have tuned in to Real 360 with our special guest, Dr. Nay. Dr. Nay, you are a treasure and definitely a jewel, and we need to have you back on our show as soon as possible. As soon as you can. We will
Just let me
you
know.
again. And you bet bring a whole barrage because it's going to be on. Uh, we want to let you know, my brother and I want to let you know that you don't have a home away from home. You do have a home right here with us on Real
Okay.
360. So if there's anything
Thank
that we
you.
can do at any given time, please don't hesitate to reach out. And shout out to our brother Herb Middleton in the building, man. I was talking to him on the line. He was driving, so he couldn't check in, but it was all good. All right. So
Shout out South Side of the building, shout side.
suicide, South suicide. Let's go. Yeah. So listen, from my home to your home to our home to yours, man. We love each and everybody out there. We want y'all to be safe, man. This is no, we got one more day. We got one more day for our Friday. Come
Yeah,
down.
yeah. Our Friday tomorrow. You know
I'm-
what I'm saying? Consistency, boy. We do
I'm
this
telling you.
consistency, boy. You know what I mean?
But all right. Well, John, you got anything else before we roll?
Yeah. Goodbye.
And there it is. Ladies and gentlemen.
Oh, I'm sorry. And the listening party is 8:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.
Okay.
Okay.
Tune in to Dr. Nate tomorrow, 8:30 Eastern, on her page on Facebook. It's going down. All right?
Absolutely, absolutely. We'd like to thank everybody that was listening and also giving their advice on there or asking questions because no question is a dumb question. You know what I'm saying? Make sure that anything that y'all want to know, please feel free to add it up in the comments. We take it with love, consideration, and pride. As long as it's proper
Respect.
and it's right to the face. We good. We don't have no issues. All right, y'all. I am KY a lot, aka Kato the Black Superhero. That's my brother, like no other, Joshua Lot, aka Mr. PhD. Who?
himself.
Mhm.
That's
And why?
because I bleed the
There it is. All right, everybody. We are Real to Real 360, man. We are out of here, man. Peace to Allah's mighty 5% nation. Everybody out there in the world, man. We salute you. One love.
state.
Yo, ladies and gentlemen, we starting to come to the end of the show. Right now, I want to take the time out and thank our guests for coming on. Also, too, we want to make sure that y'all listening and subscribing, and tell a friend and keep sharing, because we're going to keep bringing y'all the real content. You know what I mean? So, DJ KY, brother, take us up out of here, son. Peace.
I want to give a big shout out to the nation of gods and earth, to all the human families on the planet Earth. I say peace. But to our subscribers, those who continue to watch and listen to the show each and every time we come on, I give a big shout out of love, peace, and happiness. To be the man, woman, and child of the you and I first. It's time for us to disperse. We bring the best, not the worst. We thank you once again for tuning in to the Real 360. Bring a friend to hit that like and subscribe so we continue to grow the